All right, we are going to get started. It is 1 minute after the conference start, and we have a lot of people entering and joining us. So I would like to just say hello and welcome to the U.S. Department of Commerce and the U.S. Department of State's second virtual conference to support Ukrainian women-led businesses. We are really glad to have you this morning, this afternoon, and this evening. We're in 3 time zones today. My name is Susan Gates, and I am the co-founder of the WMarketplace. We are an international economic development business based in Seattle, Washington, with a mission to support women entrepreneurs globally through our training and consulting services. We are proud to be partnering with the U.S. Department of Commerce in organizing this conference series. Before we get to today's program, I have a few quick housekeeping reminders. Interpretation is available for today's conference. Presentations in English will be interpreted into Ukrainian, and presentations in Ukrainian into English. If you need interpretation, open the globe icon at the bottom of your screen and select your preferred language there. All attendees will remain muted today so we can move smoothly through our very full agenda. And as you'll notice, we are recording today's conference. So if you prefer to not participate in a recorded event, this is your opportunity to exit the conference. We will be sending this recording to all of the registered attendees after the conference session today. Please use the chat box at the bottom of your screen to type in questions. There will be an opportunity, we hope, for some question and answer time after the panel conversation about midway through today's conference. And with that, I would like to again welcome everyone to today's conference. We have an excellent and very full agenda today. This virtual conference series, titled Shifting Roles for Women in Ukraine's Economy, is the second in the series of conference sessions to support Ukrainian women-led businesses. During today's conference, we'll be hearing from expert speakers, researchers, and women entrepreneurs who will be sharing their expertise and perspective on how women's roles and positions in Ukraine are changing as a result of the war. Our goal for these virtual conferences is to allow the U.S. government, the Ukrainian government, and other stakeholders to hear directly from Ukrainian women about the most pressing challenges and barriers they currently face. We also want to emphasize the opportunity that women in business bring to Ukraine. And we want to provide the policymakers in the United States and in Ukraine with a better understanding of the market reforms needed in Ukraine to more effectively support Ukrainian women-led businesses and position them for business success. We are also hoping that the women entrepreneurs who are speaking and who are part of our audience will be inspired by each other and to know that their voices are valued and heard. Again, we're glad you are here today, and we hope that you will be able to attend our future virtual conferences as well. So today's conference is made up of 3 parts. We will have 3 keynote speakers. That will be followed by a panel of women entrepreneurs moderated by the U.S. Department of State's Office of Global Women's Issues, which will include an opportunity for questions from our conference attendees. And finally, we will close with 2 additional keynote speakers. During our panel discussion, we will be launching a series of poll questions that we would like our attendees to answer, because we want to hear from you. We know that we have a lot of women entrepreneurs who are participating, and we want to make sure that your voices are heard. This will help shape our final report and recommendations. And finally, just another reminder that you can access interpretation services at the bottom of your screen with the globe icon. And without any further delay, please allow me to introduce you to our first keynote speaker, Dr. Irina Paliashvili, the president of the U.S.-Ukraine Business Council, which has been promoting U.S.-Ukraine business relations since 1995. Dr. Paliashvili, please start us off today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan, for your kind introduction. And I would like to welcome everyone who joins us today I would also like to thank the U.S. Department of Commerce, the U.S. Department of State, and Agnes Pavelkovska for this brilliant initiative, which could not be more timely and even urgent, because the women's roles are rapidly and fundamentally shifting during the wartime. I watched the first conference and realized how much was already said, how much ground was already covered about the critical role of Ukrainian women entrepreneurs during the war and recovery. I represent US-Ukraine Business Council, which is the largest Ukraine-centered trade association headquartered outside of Ukraine. We are headquartered in Washington, D.C., and it is a strong international voice for business in Ukraine since 1995. Our organization is a business association of more than 230, mostly American, but also Ukrainian companies which do business and invest in Ukraine. Today, however, I'm speaking to you as a fellow woman entrepreneur with business experience both in Ukraine and in the United States. Long time ago, in 1992, I co-founded with two partners one of the first international law firms in Ukraine, and then we opened an office in Washington, D.C., and this law firm continues law practice until today. So I have had experience of doing business in Ukraine, in the United States, and internationally. One of the main topics Agnes announced at the first conference for this conference is gender equality. And today I would like to talk about the barriers women in business are facing and about the tools on how to overcome these barriers. And at the outset, as I said, having worked in Ukraine, in the United States, and internationally, I would like to stress that these barriers are typical not only for Ukraine, but with different degrees and variations, they still exist everywhere. And because one of the aims of this project is to prepare Ukrainian women entrepreneurs to enter international markets, you should be prepared to encounter similar obstacles and you should know how to deal with them. So what are those barriers? In a present-day civilized business environment, everyone has already theoretically embraced the idea of visual gender equality. Gender balance in the international professional environment is an axiom. No one questions this objective. Only the methods and the level of success are being debated. However, there still is a major stumbling block, and it remains, and you probably have heard about the stumbling block many times, and it's called the glass ceiling. A woman can achieve a lot in her professional career and in running small and medium-sized business, but then at some point, this growth just stops. And it is evident when we look at the leadership positions in big business, which are mostly occupied by men. Another obstacle is so-called unconscious bias and sometimes even intentional conscious bias. We encounter it in our professional lives all the time. We just don't pay attention to it, but in fact, we should. If we don't recognize the problem, don't uncover it, we will never learn how to deal with it. How many times in your career you felt being patronized, being watched, and your decisions being questioned and challenged just because you are a woman? I actually developed my own tests to detect unconscious bias. I imagined that if I were a man of the same age, same stage in my career, same accomplishments, would I still be treated like this? I apply this test not only to myself, but to other women in business that I see around me. And most of the times, the result of the test is that if there would be a man in a similar circumstances, he would not be experienced unconscious bias or conscious bias as we do. I also want to talk about what I have seen specifically in the small and medium business sector in Ukraine for years, but especially during the war. This sector has been dominated by women in Ukraine. That's not a question. Excuse me. And here I would like to first share my observation that Ukrainian women somehow, paradoxically, have been playing a very active role in what looks like a quite paternalistic society. I thought about this phenomenon and figured out that this is because in Ukrainian families, women are traditionally fully in charge of family finances. So their skills of running and balancing family budget prepare them for starting and running small businesses. The problem actually comes when the small business is ready to grow and expand. And here, either a woman herself hesitates, does not find enough self-confidence to move the business to the next stage, or her business is taken over by male leadership who are convinced that only they can take lead and lead the business to the next stage of growth and expansion. The question is what to do, how to overcome those barriers. And I remember that during the first conference, we were asked to make it as practical as possible. So first of all, you need to understand that you are not alone. Generations of women in Ukraine, in the United States, and internationally have been going through the same circumstances. So look for the community. And if you cannot find one, create your own. It is so much easier and efficient to address common problems together, to exchange ideas, to support and mentor each other. Second, there are plenty of resources for women entrepreneurs. The challenge is to find them and to see what is best for you. And here is when the assistance of governmental and private sector programs comes in. These programs are not always easy to find and navigate, but this is what this ongoing project by the US Department of Commerce, Department of State is about. To conclude, I just want to share my observation that I always thought that Ukrainian woman has been a global phenomenon that was not discovered until now. But now we see that Ukrainian women indeed entered the global stage as entrepreneurs, as professionals, in the cultural sphere, in every sphere of life. In every country, we see Ukrainian women taking the lead. We just want to make sure that inside Ukraine, they have the tools and they have the possibilities to move their businesses to the next stage and to become real business leaders. Thank you very much, and I wish you an excellent and productive conference.
Thank you so much, Dr. Paliashvili. You have started us so strongly with your comments, and I've been taking notes as you spoke, and I want to just highlight a couple of things that you said. The commonality of the experience that women do have with this glass ceiling and with experience, either conscious or unconscious bias. I think that is something that probably every woman on this call this morning has experienced. So thank you for calling that out. And the other thing I did want to highlight as well is that absolutely, Ukrainian women are a global phenomenon. So those are, I could not have said that better myself. Thank you so much. Again, thank you for your time this morning, and thank you for starting us on this very, very perfect note. And with that, I would like to welcome our second keynote speaker, Dr. Daria Nagaivska, postdoctoral researcher at the School of Business in Aalto University in Finland, and a United Nations Development Program consultant on business and human rights. Dr. Nagaivska, we're ready to hear from you. And I apologize if I am butchering anybody's name. I'm working on my Ukrainian.
Dear Susan, thank you very much for the kind introduction, and I will be switching into Ukrainian language to deliver Keynote speech. Перш за все, дозвольте подякувати
First of all,
адміністрації
thank you so much, the
Міжнародної торгівлі
administration,
Міністерства торгівлі
the
США,
US Department of
її партнерам за
Commerce,
запрошення
and
до
the
виступу і
partners for
підтримки
inviting
розвитку
me to
жіночого
be the
підприємництва в
keynote
Україні.
speaker and for
Також я
supporting
хочу
the women's
подякувати
lead
Агнес
entrepreneurship
Гейтес-Вілсон за лідерство та
development.
активну
Thank
позицію
you
з
so
підтримки
much, Ms.
українських
Susan
підприємниць
Gates.
під час
Thank you for
новорічних
supporting
війни.
Ukrainian
Чому
women
важливо сприяти
entrepreneurs during the times
економічному
of war? Why
уповноваженню
it is
жінок?
important to
Тут
facilitate
можна
the
переглянути слайд,
empowerment
будь
of
ласка.
ladies? Here we can go to the next slide, please.
Підприємниці відіграють
And
ключову роль в
the
економічному
entrepreneurs play
розвитку,
the key role
адже
in economic
забезпечують
development
фінансову
as
безпеку
they
своєї
provide
родини,
for
часто
their
несуть повну
families,
відповідальність
providing
за
them with the
трудових дітей
finances,
і родичів
quite
старшого
often carrying
віку.
out the
Також
responsibility, total
підприємниці створюють
responsibility for the
робочі місця
senior
в
family
громадах
members.
і
They also
сприяють
create jobs in their
працевлаштуванню інших
communities
жінок,
and
в часів, які
facilitate
потерпають від
creating
дискримінації за
creation
віком.
of jobs to
Реінвестують
those
до
ladies who
90%
sometimes
прибутку на підтримку
undergo
родини і громади.
discriminations, age
Відповідально ведуть
discrimination,
бізнес
etc.
і не
They are very
вперше бізнеси
responsible in their
забезпечують
businesses,
відповідність
and even
стандартам,
when the
в тому
start
числі щодо
of
відповідального
the
ведення
business comes, they are very
діяльності.
responsible
І розвивають
here,
платформу взаємодії,
and they develop the
купуючи
platform of
продукти одна в
networking
одної.
cooperation. They
Разом з
buy
тим,
products from each
підприємниці
other,
стикаються
supporting
з
each other.
обмеженнями в
But the
доступі до
entrepreneurs
капіталу.
quite
Наприклад, у
frequently face
2020 році стартапи, які
different
керують жінки, змогли
barriers
залучити лише
getting
зі
access to
0,3%
resources. Only
венчурного капіталу в світі.
2.3
Також
capital
підприємниці
was
непропорційно
belonging
потерпають від
to the
надзвичайних ситуацій.
women-led
Дослідження свідчать, що під час
entrepreneurships.
криз
And the
на
researchers
6%
say
вірогідніше,
that
що
6% is
жінки-підприємниці
the
закриють
probability
свій бізнес,
that the women-led
порівняно з
businesses will be
підприємницями,
closed if we compare
підприємцями-чоловіками.
this proportion to
Початком
the businesses
повномасштабного
run by
російського
men
вторгнення
and
економічне
that
становище
have the
жінки не
probability
погіршилось.
to get closed,
Проте
which
існує
is
потужний
higher.
потенціал щодо
And there is the great
працевлаштування жінок і
potential
розвитку
for
жіночого
creating jobs
підприємництва.
for women and for
Можна
developing of the
наступний
women's
слайд.
entrepreneurship. Next slide,
Так
please.
спостерігається
And
зменшення частки
here
офіційно
we
зайнятих жінок,
can see
зростання неформальної
the
зайнятості жінок,
drop the
зростання
shrinkage of
гендерного
the
розриву в
proportion of
ознаках
official
праці. Але
employed
тут
women,
необхідно
and
зробити
we can
ремарку,
see
що
the
останні
increase of the
офіційно
informal employment
затверджені
of
дані
women.
свідчать, що
And
гендерний
the
розрив в
recent
оплаті
data says
праці в
that the
Україні
gender
становить
gap as for the salary is
18,6%, а за обстеженнями
18.6%,
Національного
but
інституту
according to
демографії,
the
гендерний
National
розрив в оплаті
Institute
праці станом
of
на 2023 рік
Gender
становив
Equality,
понад
the
44%.
salary gap, the
При
gender
обстеженні було
gap as for the
використано
salary was
різні методології,
22%.
тому що
Different
під час
methodologies were
повномасштабної
used. That
війни,
is
на жаль,
why it
немає
impacted the
повного
results.
доступу до
Unfortunately,
даних.
during the full-scale invasion, we
Також
don't have the full
спостерігається
access to the data.
посилення
We
галузевої
also can
диференціації
observe
зайнятості жінок і
the
чоловіків,
branch
зростання частки
differentiation
жінок
as
серед
for the employment for
підприємниць.
women
Бізнес
and men.
жінки розглядають як
And
альтернативу
women consider
зайнятості
business
і
as the
хочуть заробляти
alternative
більше,
job
а
and
також
a way of
спостерігається зростання
employment. And
зацікавленості жінок
also we
розвивати
can
відповідальний
observe the
бізнес.
interests of
Тому
women
важливо
to run
обговорювати виклики, з
responsible
якими стикаються
businesses.
жінки на ринку праці і в
And if
підприємництві,
we speak
і
about the
реалізовувати плани
challenges in
для
the market,
підтримки їх
women
економічного
are very eager
уповноваження.
to overcome those
Можна
challenges
далі.
and to support the
Працівниці
economic
і
development of the
підприємниці
country.
стикаються з такими
Quite
основними
often,
викликами.
employers and employees
Це
face the
стереотипи
following
щодо
challenges.
жінок
The
у
stereotypes
чоловічих
as for
колективах і на
women
керівних посадах.
in
Ці стереотипи
men's
стосуються того, що жінка має займатися
groups at
родиною і
work
не може бути
and or
хорошою керівницею.
personnel.
Такі
Quite
стереотипи
often,
особливо
women are
поширені
considered to be
в місцевих
bad
громадах.
leaders, especially it is
Також
very popular
серед викликів
stereotypes
це
in small
корпоративна
communities.
культура, яка є
Another
недружньою
challenge,
до жінок і
corporative
людей з
culture, which
культури,
is
і
not
орієнтована часто
women
на
friendly, and quite
високопродуктивних
often it's
чоловіків, які
oriented
не
upon men
займаються ключовими
who do
роботою
not
вдома.
provide for the
Також
family,
жінки
who do not take
несуть
care of the
основну
families,
відповідальність за
and
домашню роботу і
women
догляд.
also take
Відповідно
most
до
of the
результатів
responsibilities
досліджень,
for
жінки
their housework
в
and
середньому
for
витрачають на
housekeeping
16
their
годин на тиждень більше, ніж
households.
чоловіки.
And we can also
Також
observe
спостерігається зростання
the
оплачуваної
increase
доглядової
of the
праці, що стає перепоною для виходу
non-paid
на ринок праці,
caring
навчання і
work,
запуску бізнесу.
which is quite
Адже
often
жінки
an
часто стають
obstacle because quite
доглядальницями за
often
родичами старшого
women
віку.
take
І
care of
тими,
their senior
хто
relatives
мали
and
інвалідність або які
those
отримали в час повномасштабної
family
війни.
members
І
who
також
have the
серед викликів
disabilities,
це
so the
обмежений
women take
доступ
care of them. That
підприємниць
is
до
why they have
фінансових
problems
ресурсів,
getting their
брак
jobs.
відповідних
And
знань,
they have,
зокрема в
women
питанні
have
управління
problems with
людьми і
access
фінансами.
to the financial resources,
Можна
sometimes
наступний
to the
слайд.
knowledge. Next slide, please.
Урядові партнери, міжнародні партнери з розвитку,
Governmental and
бізнес-асоціації та
international
компанії мають
development
об'єднати
partners,
зусилля,
business
щоб
associations
допомогти
have to
жінкам
consult their
перекваліфікації,
efforts to
розвитку
help
бізнесу,
women in
зменшенню
upgrading their skills,
та гарячих
developing developing their business and reducing the burden of care work. Thus, their welfare will definitely grow. The example of the initiatives is on the slide. One of them is increasing the access to the care services and participation of women-led companies in supply chains to implement women's economic empowerment. It is important to cooperate with business associations, investors, private companies, civil society organizations, and local communities. Various stakeholders shall contribute to successful implementation of the national women's empowerment policy. This policy has to focus in particular on women in rural vicinities, then women older than 45 age, and women who are disproportionately engaged in care work. Thus, the inequality will be reduced, the effects of the full-scale invasion will be mitigated. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nagaivska. I want to, again, highlight a couple of points that I think are so important and that we can resonate with here in the United States as well. The percentage of capital, for example, that is invested in women's businesses and that women have access to. I think you would find similar numbers here in the United States. But I also wanted to mention something else that I heard, which is that the importance of having women at all levels of and all pieces of the business supply chain, whether it's the financial piece, the actual supply chain pieces, women in leadership, women being visible and available and seen and supported at all levels is really my takeaway from your talk this morning. So thank you so much for highlighting those incredibly important pieces. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. And with that, I would like to welcome our third keynote speaker, Dr. Irina Tytarchuk, the Executive Director of the Ukraine Investment and Trade Facilitation Center, and author of the incredibly impactful study, Ukrainian Female Entrepreneur Profile, which I will drop into the chat while Dr. Tytarchuk is speaking. So Dr. Tytarchuk, thank you and welcome to the program.
Дякую, Susan. Дякую всім організаторам.
Thank you very much. Thank you, dear host. Thank you for having me at this important conference. Many thanks to all the participants. I see also some familiar faces. This is the sign of your interest and the engagement in advocacy of this topic. Also, many thanks to the women entrepreneurs who are going to speak this and next times. You are the true face of a woman entrepreneur, and we are proud of you. We are ready to talk about you all the time and demonstrate your success. On this picture, you can also see the women entrepreneurs who we are proud of. As mentioned by Susan, it is greatly important to justify the profile of a Ukrainian woman entrepreneur. You have also seen some figures provided by Daria. But why do we need these statistics? Why do we need to describe this profile? For the benefit of the women themselves. First of all, let's describe the situation in Ukrainian women-led business. This situation is not too bad. As you may see, in 2022 and 2023, women are continuing to run their businesses in spite of the external circumstances. These are the findings of our transitional study. Now it's the third stage of the study. We see that currently the situation has deteriorated by 10%, but still women-led businesses are operating. And in general, we can present the positive profile of a Ukrainian woman entrepreneur who tries to be a role model and not just to survive. So what has changed for women in 2023? The number of women-led businesses is growing in 2023 and 2024. But of course, this growth is not positive by itself. During our study, we surveyed 300 women. Then we also had interviews with about 10 entrepreneurs, and we realized they have various reasons for registering these businesses. Very often, they re-register the businesses previously owned by their husbands because their husbands have been enrolled to the armed forces and cannot operate their businesses any longer. So this is one of the reasons. Reason number one, women receive lots of access to financing in form of grants, but of course this is not sufficient, I'll tell you immediately. We are comparing the situation to the one which we observed several years ago, but still this won't do. Then women do receive grants and register their businesses. However, we should check later whether the businesses continue their operation. We have to see the balance between the businesses that operate and that have closed down. So thus we'll see the dynamics. During this study, it was not our goal to check this balance. However, I'm informing the international donors and other participants. You may check this information because it's not just about numbers, but about quality as well. It's also important to see what sectors are most prominent in terms of women-led businesses. Mainly, women-led businesses are individuals and individual enterprises. So they do not produce goods, but rather offer some services. Then another reason is for this group is a better support of businesses. The business is adaptive, and women are sure that they can get accommodated to the new circumstances. And here I agree with my colleague who said that social responsibility is deeply entrenched in Ukrainian business, including women-led business. Social responsibility is a well-developed sphere, while the women realize their social impact. So, what is the profile? Has it changed within these several years? Not significantly. Many businesses are run by women younger than 30 years. A big portion is led by women of 30 to 35 years old. Many of them have children. Many of them got a certain education, then they got retrained, and then they also started their business. Some of them used to work in a certain sector, then they quitted and started their own business. It's important to pay attention to this important chain: education, career, and startup. During this sequence, certain state funds are wasted because women get education, some funds are spent on that, then these specialties they get transferred, become unnecessary. So it may be important to check whether some specialties remain relevant. So this is important to see this connection with education. The majority of women run businesses in form of an individual enterprise or a micro business, so they are sole owners of the business. On less occasions, they have up to 2 employees. At the same time, individual entrepreneurship is clearly characterized by partnership and mutual support when providing services. In light industry, women, for instance, sign contracts and assist each other if they produce clothes, for instance. or ceramics. This is an important justification of their export potential. For instance, if they would like to export something abroad, they can adapt to the demand. So women are ready to find the partners who would help them with finishing the goods intended for export. So this means no one should be afraid of working with micro businesses because they tend to cooperate and mutually reinforce each other. And again, what about export? In 2023, 38% declared that they are not planning to export their goods, while 43% have such goods. In 2023, 19% of those who did not export started exporting due to the simplified procedures of exports to the US and the European countries. In terms of the US, I can say that our entrepreneurs are not afraid of logistics any longer because they are not afraid of big distances. The distances are no barriers, and they can export to broader markets. However, the European countries still predominate in their export structure, with 75% of exports. 52% of exports are accounted for by USA. So what source of funding were used? 70%, from 70% to 85% of women use their own funding. But the share of the grants is steadily growing. Women exchange knowledge, exchange experience, they get consulted by various organizations, and they know how to get the access to grants. Nonetheless, when we work with the women entrepreneurs, we emphasize that grants are not an universal remedy. Grants cannot be used for the long-term and systemic business. When they launch their business, we always tell them that you have to expect the profits not from the grants, but from producing goods and providing services. So please do not perceive grants as your silver bullet. This can help you survive, but this won't help you to develop your business in a systemic way. We always advise them to look for other sources of funding. Such source of funding can be, for instance, corporate business. The previous speaker mentioned the networks, the supply chains, participation, mutual participation, joint participation in tenders, and so on. Another source is investment, and yet another one is funding provided by banks in form of loans. There was a program 579 at the time of COVID. Entrepreneurs could get funding at a lower interest rate. Now this program is not in operation any longer, so it's more difficult to work with the banks. However, the banks do not lobby their services, so the business does not clearly understand what can be done about the loans, and they don't know how the loans can be made more accessible for them. For entrepreneurs, the loans are very expensive, they are afraid of them, and they are not eager to utilize this source of funding. And I'm urging the entrepreneurs to work on this topic. There should be some programs offered by banks to support women entrepreneurs. Some banks, and some programs like Mastercard and Visa, indeed offer such programs. However, they are still associated with the grants rather with the long-term support. Please pay attention to that. What are main achievements and victories? The business has been scaled up and extended. The stable activity is considered to be a victory. The improvement of quality is also considered to be a victory. So please So the quality of services and goods is one of the main priorities for the most of our respondents, and we have to talk about this quality when we promote our goods for exports. We do not manipulate the topic of war. We explain how women entrepreneurs create high-quality product. It's characterized by high quality, not just because our country is involved in war, but because it's produced in line with all the requirements. It's worth purchasing these goods, not because Ukraine is at war, but because these products, these goods, deserve being purchased and used. So no one should buy our products just to save us, but because the products are really cool. It's very good that Ukrainian women really recognize that. What are the challenges? Of course, the challenges are always in place. 51% of respondents report that the rules of the game often change retrospectively. The rules sometimes are unclear. This is a big factor of instability. For instance, yesterday I read the story about the sales of heating wood, so there is a new rule again. Then 27% of respondents report the stereotypes associated with the women-led businesses. So this is a big share, especially the stereotypes are obvious in the regions. There are lots of stereotypes dominating in the fields. So such stereotypes as women do not understand anything, women cannot be leaders, so women's place is in the kitchen, at home, or women-led businesses are not durable. By the way, I know lots of stories of women who started at the time of being on maternity leave. So, but what are we trying to do? We're trying to debunk these myths very gently, very mildly, especially in the regional level. We try to use the mirror tool, mirror technique. We try to show the same issues in the men-led businesses, and we are looking for allies among men. We hope that these stereotypes will be considered rather as jokes, but these jokes are not acceptable for the country, which is pretty visible at the international level and which is going to become an EU member. Then, what is missing? Resources for the development, experience and knowledge, trainings, short-term programs. Many respondents mentioned that they would like to undergo training abroad. So this means that the international experience exchange is also missing. They would like to report their successes on the international arena, and there is something they can share, there is something they can boast of. And we see that the situations in different countries change in various way, and we can, for instance, give you an example of Afghanistan. So it's important to monitor the situation. Then the respondents would like to see more partners, and also mental health support is also important. Then we asked them about the source of funding they would like to get access to. They would like to work with grants, of course, but once again we remind them that it is not a universal tool. Yes, grants can be spent on some initiatives, but it's not the stable source of funding. Another sources, loans, investments, and so on. So these are the sources they are planning to use in 2024-2025. What is the impact of war? In 2022, 95% said that the war affected their businesses. In 2023, the number of respondents is 100%. These are people who say that the war affected their relations with the contractors, with the suppliers. They had to relocate their business. They had to relocate. It is just one thing to relocate your family, while relocating your business is a totally different story. And vice versa. You can relocate your business, but it's difficult to relocate your children, relocate your parents. And as mentioned by colleagues, some elderly relatives or some relatives with disability can be a big barrier for relocation. So all these issues accumulate. We supported some hubs and we realized that several entrepreneurs returned to Kharkiv in spite of danger.
Збитки з тих підприємець, що нам сказали, зверніть увагу, 40% це збитки.
40% the damages, that's the loss in incomes, ruined production facilities, and the loss of income, profit, or clients. And here we say that 14% of the women reported the loss in the amount of 5 million hryvnia. And if we speak about those who moved abroad, here we can see the question whether they plan to come back to Ukraine if they are going to do this. And it seems to me 17% of people surveyed said they don't plan, but 41% of the surveyed people reported they would like to live and come back into Ukraine, and now they are considering their possibility to live in two countries simultaneously. 19% have not taken the decision. 12% mentioned, I'd love to come back to Ukraine, definitely I will do it. And you can see the rest of the results. If we speak about running the business, 31% of the surveyed report that they will continue running their business in Ukraine remotely. 22% of the people surveyed have put their business on pause, and 22% decided to change the area of the activity in the country they moved to. And some percentage of people, up to 10% of the people surveyed, reported they changed their jobs to be occupied, to be employed in the country they moved to. And we can find some other areas and challenges which we should mention. But here I would like to highlight, if we speak about recommendations, I would like to highlight upon training programs for them to be adjusted to the needs of the women entrepreneurs and the international donors, educational programs created in the universities offered by the donors, for them to be adjusted and for them to echo with the situation on the market, so to meet the needs of the women entrepreneurs. Then it will be easier to adapt, to survive, and to enjoy other role models, the women of the jobs women can occupy, and the development of networking and partnership. We lack this partnership with the peers abroad. That is why we plan and hope to, and more than ready to develop such networks, partnerships. If we speak about advocacy to the employment legislation, here we should also work upon these gender stereotypes. We should combat them as well. We should run promotional campaigns, and we are working upon this, and we should develop this area of work as well. And that's great that in Ukraine we have finally understood that gender equality, support to women, it's not a trend. We as Ukraine, as a country with experience, should form those trends. So not only follow those trends, but also to create our own trends. We already have some achievements and acknowledgements, so we should support this, highlight and speak more about this. And we are ready to work with the donors and women entrepreneurs to raise this issue and develop our areas. Thank you so much. That's everything I wanted to mention. Definitely you will get the presentation and the research findings will be shared with you. So if you're interested in this, we're more than ready to communicate with you. Thank you.
Dr. Tytarchuk, thank you so much for this incredible presentation, for all of the research that you have done and you have done through your various organizations and all of the ways that you are supporting women in Ukraine. That's just absolutely amazing. I want to highlight a couple of things that I took note of. I think that you really reflected some of Dr. Paliashvili's comments around the importance of partnership and finding your community, and that women entrepreneurs are incredibly skilled at that. It's one of the things we see here in the US and that we have already observed with the women entrepreneurs that we work with in Ukraine. It's a real strength, I think, of women small business owners, and it's something to definitely lean into and be very intentional about growing those partnerships. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the importance of financing, right? That's something that you came back to over and over again in your presentation, that grants are not enough. And we absolutely agree with this. It's not a sustainable form of financing for a business, and the importance of access to capital for small business owners. And we have dedicated an entire conference in this series to exactly that topic. Conference 4 on December 3rd is going to be all about access to capital for small business owners in Ukraine. And what does that look like? What is the current state? Where does it need to shift? Where do we need to be investing? And what are the various mechanisms for investing in women-owned businesses? So thank you so much for the time that you spent on that important topic as well. I have a feeling that we'll be reaching back out to you for some additional resources around that topic. So again, thank you to all of our amazing keynote speakers this morning. We are going to be shifting. We're going to be shifting now to our panel conversation. We originally had 3 women business owners scheduled to speak this morning as on our panel. Because of the situation in Ukraine, one of our panelists has experienced an emergency and will not be able to join us, unfortunately. She is the owner of Lamel Cosmetics, a growing international cosmetics brand who has gained access to some large retailers in the US and around the world. And we will miss her presence here this morning. I will be dropping all of the business owners' websites into the chat so you can review them yourselves and maybe support their businesses as well. But at this time, I would like to introduce our moderator, Muhaio. Muhaio is, as I mentioned earlier, with the State Department's Office of Women's Global Issues. She will be our moderator. And our panelists are Anastasiia Burzi. She is the managing partner of the beautiful home decor business, Wood Mood. And Alina Hrytsai. She is a job coach with Upwardly Global, assisting displaced Ukrainian women with job opportunities. So Alina will be able to bring in that perspective of the women that she is working with who are currently outside of Ukraine and looking for job opportunities, and she will bring that unique opportunity. During this conversation, I'm asking our technical support to launch some of those poll questions, just kind of space them out a little bit so people have a chance to focus on the conversation as well. But if we could ask our participants to please respond to those questions as appropriate, that would be great. And then after the panel conversation, we should have just a few minutes to answer any questions of the panelists as well. So with that, I will open the floor to Muhaio and to our panelists this morning. All right, so go ahead and take it away.
Oh, sorry. I was hoping to switch to my headset, but that's not working. So sorry for that. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning for those who are in the US. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be part of this really deep and important conversation. Thank you to Susan and Kate and Agnes for creating such a fantastic program. I just wanted to say that on behalf of my office, the Secretary's Office for Global Women's Issues. We do have a global strategy on women's economic security, and there are 4 lines of efforts under that strategy. So one of the lines of efforts is devoted to women's entrepreneurship. We're also in the month where globally this theme is celebrated. So there is a Women's Entrepreneurship Week, which is starting on November 18th, and it will go all the way to 22nd. The International Day of Women's Entrepreneurship is on November 19th. So I really congratulate all of you for all hard work and for your courage, because generally women entrepreneurs are taking high risks, because just as all our wonderful presenters said before, we have less access to credit. There are gender stereotypes we have to fight with. It's more difficult to enter markets. It's harder to get business education. It's even more difficult to build networks. Despite of that, about 40% of businesses, according to UN, in Ukraine are led by women entrepreneurs. So, and of course, in a situation of conflict and transition, it's even more difficult for women to take these leadership roles. But not only you're taking these roles, but you're also moving economy forward. So thank you for that. And truly kudos to all of you. So I would turn to the questions we want to discuss today. And the first one would be very much connected to all the presentations which we were listening to. How have shifting gender roles opened new economic opportunities for women entrepreneurs in Ukraine? Can you please share with us and let us know how you're seeing it generally in the field, but also how you experience it in your own organization and in your own sort of business sector you're working in. I'll pass now to Anastasiia, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Muhaio, for the question. I was caught by quiz, so I will just closing this for later. So first of all, I thank you for invitation for this conversation, because I feel that this is very vital for us to have a voice and to show our not only like global problems and questions, open questions, but our very local and points that we meet difficulties with. So all this can be just evidenced by our everyday life, and I think that every woman entrepreneur just have a lot of what to tell you about. And regarding your question about what opportunities we got, I would say that I feel that they are not only for today, and our main opportunities is about our enforcement, and that we mostly are forced to become stronger. And as it said that when you have a personal growth and it is smooth, it's not personal growth. So it cannot be smooth and soft, and all the things we receive from the environment just give us no chance to become weak. And the skills we get now will let us build more stronger future. And I personally feel that maybe that is one of the most important things, and one of the most important like transactions that we go through now as women who make business in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we Let me see for a second. If I can go back to my questions. Yeah, I'm very sorry, but there was some sort of poll, yeah, which kind of completely changed my
Yes, vision of your screen.
yeah. So sorry for this. Let me Alina, would you like to add anything to that first question before we go to the second? Like if you were experiencing any of these shifts, if you're seeing where you work, how women are taking more, you know, and in terms of like responding to these challenges, how this difficulty created more opportunity for women.
Well, actually, we work in a little bit different position, in a different perspective of view, because we help, let's say, refugee displaced women in Poland to find a job. So, for example, I can tell a whole story about our project, what we do, or at the end, or now, as how do you think it is better to do?
Yeah, let me, so I finally was able to fix my screen. Yeah, so if it's more comfortable to add at the end, but I thought like, if you want to add anything to this question, I wanted to make sure I'll give you that opportunity.
Thank you. So I think at the end of our little conversation, I can tell more information about the project. Maybe it will be useful for people who had to leave Ukraine, who are in other countries now, especially in Poland, or maybe our participants, you know, have friends, colleagues who had to move, and we will try to help as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Anastasiia, I just wanted to ask you, you gave really good points about how you're forced to become stronger, how you are better prepared, you feel, for more solid decisions in the future. Could you give us example in what ways these challenges made you more resilient in making business decisions? If you have a specific sort of example when you can go back and say, this was the moment when I had to change business operation, respond to changing economical situation in this way. Like, is there any like a specific example which you could
First of all, talking personally, I just don't want to reflect to 2022 when it all started and we went through like material losses because our production was partly destroyed and we had a lot of difficult family stories. But this all actually gave like a push to restart, rebuild, educate yourself, educate in like managing, in finance funding, in team building, and to find these points in me to get them in my business. And I hope that I was able to explain what I mean. So, for example, we had, before the war started, we had Woodmood had very strong positions in Ukrainian market, and we were fast growing. But our segment is like sustainable wooden candles. It's not a vital product for Ukraine now, and our internal market still is becoming smaller. So we are forced to go global. We are forced to build, we were forced to build like a worldwide web shop, which we didn't have before. We felt okay in Ukraine. So we had like some B2B contracts, but we were not forced to go to international e-commerce. If we are talking specifically about this brand, so this push, I believe that will give us a growth, but in the future, so not looking at those facts that it is not very like soft way. But we gain new knowledges, we gain a new like partnership, we gain new visions to just to grow. And when we went out of Ukrainian customer, we understood the world another way, and it all will give us not only tomorrow dividends, but the day after tomorrow, and in a year, in decade. So that is why I told you that a lot of things that we go through right now, we will see on not tomorrow, but in the future, just after a lot of other things will happen, and a lot of rains will grow.
That is exactly the example I was looking for, just as you said, how like you started an internally oriented business, right? But then when the challenges impacted your clientele, you had to think outside of the box. It was really outside, meaning like you had to orient your business globally. And that's such a huge transition for any business, even that one which is operating in a manageable environment, right? And you were able to do that under these terrific, horrible circumstances, right? Which were impacting not only your business, but your family, as you said, your community. So this is the example we're looking for, not to inspire our audience, but also to remember that what Agnes and Susan and Kate are trying to do with these series of webinars, they're trying to inform policymakers, right? So, and if you would be able to address them right now, policymakers on both sides, Ukrainian government, but also US government, what would be your message to them after going through such a transformative, challenging experience? Could you please share that message with us today?
Oh, yes. These would be two different messages, because we had really different internal and international questions. And first, maybe I will start from our internal wishes. And for me, as a woman entrepreneur, I would wish simplifying and clarifying the system. For example, in Ukraine, I met a lot of, like bureaucratization and bureaucratic procedures which do not match the flexibility challenges we have and we actually need. Maybe for example, it's when you have like some workers and you need to do everything by the rule. You have a lot of papers of counting the working time, and if this worker needs to take a vacation, it should be written like in a special form and then signed in different ways, and then a lot of things like that makes it just difficult, and it wastes our time, because the simpler the system will be, the less waste of time we will have, and the more efficient we will work. And moreover, it will stimulate more women to become entrepreneurship and to go into entrepreneurship and to grow the country, because small business rules, and it in a lot of countries it's just like a base and fundamental of country success. And the same, simply, if we talk about, for example, childcare in Ukraine, as it traditionally works for the small children, there are like kindergartens, but in some places they do not work, and some places they just don't are not very safe to be, because of alerts and all we have. So simplifying this part for, I studied international experience, and I see that in a lot of countries there is a possibility that one mom can become like a nanny entrepreneur and to take up to 5 kids additionally to take care of them, with more like even psychological comfort for these kids, which is vital in our time. So this simplifying this system would help a lot. And that is for sure the question for our Ukrainian policymakers. And if we talk about American government, the difficulties we meet as a small Ukrainian business is like because of the situation, Ukraine is a high-risk country now, and we meet difficulties in security control. For example, when US citizen meets our payment system on our website. So it's because it is Ukrainian, it's just we just do not go through this, and we seems not safe to be and not safe to work with. So maybe if there is a possibility to simplify this, or to receive some, I don't know, maybe
simplifying paperwork and the process, right? Anastasia, I do not mean to interrupt this important point you're making, but let's move for a second to Alina, because she has a hard deadline. Is that true, Alina? So we can allow her to tell us a little bit more about her work and what kind of shifts she's seeing there, and then we can come back to you if we will have time, right? But this is just the beginning of this large conversation about our messages to policymakers. So Alina, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation to this important conference. I'm not a business person, but I have a very personal story, and can say from the inside how displaced person, refugee from Ukraine, can manage life in different other country. So I'm original from Ukraine, of course. I lived a perfect, brilliant life, stable life. And because of the war in Ukraine in 2022, I had to move. Now I live in Poland, Warsaw. And here I trying to organize my life as a solo mother with a child who is now 10 years old. So I came here with a 7 years old son, and we organized our life here. it was pretty challenging, and I have gone all this way of searching the job in Poland. And so it's very personally for me. And now I help people here in Poland, people from Ukraine, in this job search process. So now I work in an organization, Upwardly Global. This organization works in States a very long time ago, like more than 20 years, and they help there for migrants, immigrants in their job search process. And now they have great initiative to help Ukrainians who had to leave their country and had to move to Poland, and they help to find highly qualified job here, because a lot of people in Ukraine and other countries think that if you come to Poland, you can work only in, let's say, cleaning companies or in some factories or not qualified positions. Yes, and we try to prove and to show how Ukrainian ladies can find really high positions in international companies, in different projects. And unfortunately, during all the webinars or conferences which I take part in, I repeat such phrase as, because of this war, whole world now knows how brave, how intelligent, how cool Ukrainian ladies are, and how they can organize new life in new countries. So now I work in this project, Upwardly Global, and I started here as a job seeker. So what I have done, I was taking part, in all the possible projects, in all organizations, in all foundations which provided any kind of help for Ukrainians. I organized a little Telegram channel for Ukrainian ladies in Warsaw, and we posted their information which could help ladies here in Poland, in Warsaw. And I personally, went to all these projects. And first of all, I was as a job seeker here in Upwardly Global. And then I received my work in one organization as Dom Ukraiński w Warszawie. It's a very popular organization here which help Ukrainians. And then I started my work here in Upwardly Global. So what we do here, we first of all, we accepted people only with English B1 level. And then we understood that we can help more people, and we started accepted people with Polish language also. And here I can say one more, plus of Ukrainian ladies who during 1 year learned Polish for B1 and somebody even B2, and now I meet ladies who speak fluently Polish, and they work in Polish organization and international organization. And sometimes people say like, wow, did you learn Polish before? How can you speak so, fluently? So, we accept people who speak Polish or English, and we help improve their, first of all, resume, because resume in Ukraine and in Poland and in the international companies really different. So we try to develop, to improve this resume, and we teach Ukrainians how to do it perfectly, which will go through the ATS system, which will, be great fit for international recruiters, and so on. Then, of course, we work with the LinkedIn profile, because unfortunately, a lot of Ukrainian ladies and gentlemen also do not even work with this business networking media, let's say, yes. So we organized webinars, courses, and so on for the LinkedIn profile improvement. Of course, interview process. I think you understand that the interview process in Ukraine and in international companies are a little bit different. So we teach our participants how to go through this process, how to manage your emotional emotions, and how to become a great candidate. And we also work with a lot of questions, because what kind of barriers we see here? First of all, it's language, of course. Of course, if you speak English, it's much easier for you to find a job in Poland or other country, online job. But if you come to Poland, please take all your time and start learning Polish. No experience, no work experience in Poland. A lot of companies, of course, ask for that. So that is why I also tell my job seekers, please, when you come to Poland or other countries, start working, start looking for some, maybe a little bit downgrade position, but start doing something that we can show, in your resume. Of course, it's lack of support. For me, for example, as the solo mother, yes, I understand how complicated it is when you need to, to take your child from school, to go to different classes, manage his or her also problems, because a lot of Ukrainian kids do not want to go to, to Polish schools, for example. They had their friends in Ukraine, and it's a big problem for them. For me, it was a little luck, yes, because my son was only 7 years old when we came here, and I could manage this. Of course, psychological problems. A lot of our participants have families in Ukraine. A lot of our participants' husbands, fight in Ukraine. They are in the army. One day I had the meeting with my job seeker, and she said, yesterday my home was destroyed and my mother was killed there. And I'm not a psychologist, and I couldn't, professionally help her, but I also understood that, oh my God, it is impossible to look for a job when you are in such a situation, in such unstable, position. So, of course, we cooperate with a lot of foundations, a lot of projects, of any kind of, help which we can provide to our participants, because psychological, mental support is really, really important. And I also pay attention on that fact that there are a lot of free even support which can Ukrainians use, and it's really important, because in our mind it's not like okay to go to psychologist. When I tell my mother, like, I'm sorry, I cannot speak now because I have a session with my psychologist, she's like, okay, but maybe you will speak with me and we can discuss it. But of course it's very, very different topics. It's really different, situations. For a lot of people in Ukraine, it's unusual to go to a professional who can help you. So we have also to show this, that it is important to go to professionals, especially in such situation. I am more than 2 years in this therapy, and today I also had such a meeting, and it really helps. And I always tell my job seekers, please ask for professional support. Of course, one more barrier, it's limited professional network. That is why we pay attention on the LinkedIn, we pay attention on all possibilities which we have in Warsaw, in different big cities, where you can go for the networking. It's really important. In my city, for example, I know, all the companies, all the management of these companies. How can I know it in Warsaw? That is why we also pay attention of the importance of network. We started providing also such meetings with our job seekers. We invite different companies, and we show that, of course, networking is very, very important. Of course, barriers are cultural difference and documentations, because some professions need, you know, diplomas, improvement of these diplomas, like for doctors, teachers, and so on. So it is also a challenging process, but we also try to help with all these moments. In our project, more than 1,000 of participants took part, and they were trained. And for now, we have more than 400 placements. And our participants, our job seekers, now have positions in Accenture, Oliver Wyman, JP Morgan, even in the Google, and other very famous companies. And we are really, really proud of these people. What else we have done? We created a Telegram group for our participants also, where we share a lot of useful information, because it's a little bit complicated. We have pool of so different positions. It's IT manager, IT project managers, teachers, doctors, I know, administrative work. So we try to provide them really useful information which can help them in their job search process. We have Business English Conversation Club. We have now Business Polish Conversation Club, and it is super popular and really helps. We provide them with the webinars in Polish, English, and Ukrainian, and we started even YouTube channel, which was, you know, a little bit challenging for our country managers. That, oh my God, I have to do so much new things, YouTube, Telegram, and so on, but it really helps. And I would say that advices which we always give to these people who are in such a complicated situation, as I say, long life learning. You have always to be, you know, in high stage and always learn something new, because artificial intelligence, I know, new technologies are really important. And I see that a lot of our participants are upskilling and reskilling into IT roles, into administrative positions, and other help positions. Of course, we see that some percentage of our participants had to come back to Ukraine because of more, you know, family situation, psychological situation, and some of them have moved to other countries like Germany, UK, Italy a little bit. But anyway, we see that Ukrainian ladies are really strong, are really motivated, have great passion to find the high level positions in the international companies. And I will be really glad if I would share some links to our project in the chat, and maybe you can also share it with your friends, colleagues, family members, and we will provide them with one-on-one meetings, support, and even if these people, as I say, will take you know, new knowledge here in Poland, in the international companies, they can always bring this information and this knowledge back to Ukraine and to rebuild Ukraine. So I think it will be a really great plus for our economy. And I'm very happy that I can, you know, that I also can take part in this process.
Absolutely. Alina, thank you so much. I'm going to pass it to Susan quickly because we went a little bit over time, which is understandable because there is so much to share, right?
Yeah,
and every
Thank
point
you.
you said, you know, I was putting into direct message to Susan and said to everyone that, first of all, Anastasiia, thank you so much for mentioning about childcare. You know, that need is critical around the globe, but especially in Ukraine. There is a program by USAID and World Bank, which is called Invest in Childcare, which is doing exactly what you described, that solution you said, you know, and I will make sure to pass your message to them. And to Alina, I put in chat that Google Poland was awarded the Secretary Blinken last year, gave an award, which is the kind of excellence award in corporate world for American companies for exactly that they were working very actively with Ukrainian refugees, but also trying to integrate women empowerment in their own practices. So thank you so much, Susan. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Muhaio. Thank you, Alina. Thank you, Anastasiia. You all brought up so many important topics, important things to reflect on. I keep thinking about this importance, these two things that we keep coming back to is the importance of childcare and mental health support, which when we were originally planning these conferences last summer, these were not two topics that were kind of top of our list when we were thinking about how do we bring support around entrepreneurship. We were really thinking more along kind of traditional business lines, right? Like investment, technology, right, rules, regulations, finance, all of those sorts of things. So thank you for bringing up these incredibly important topics. And these will absolutely be affecting our final report and the recommendations that we will be making. I believe that Dr. Tytarchuk actually had her hand raised earlier, and I wondered if you had a question before we let Alina know, because I believe, Alina, you also had a hard deadline for, I believe, picking up your child. So we want to make sure that we are honoring that deadline as well. But if Irina, if you had a question.
Так, якщо можна, я трошечки відрефлексую
If it's
на
possible, I would like to
те, що
reflect
Аліна зазначила,
and to what Alina has mentioned.
Розуміючи всі цю складність
Understanding all the
виживання
difficulties of
українських жінок за
surviving
кордоном,
of Ukrainian women
розуміючи
abroad,
призначення вашої
understanding
організації,
the
що
goal
вона
of your
підтримує
organization
дійсно
to
в важкі
support
часи,
in hard
ви з
times,
таким
in times of
ентузіазмом
hardships, with
розповідали про те,
such
що ви робите і
enthusiasm.
скільки ви
You were speaking
вкладаєте.
about job you are doing
Скажіть,
and
будь ласка,
about
як ви
your
думаєте,
investments
серед
and
тих жінок, з
efforts to
якими ви
improve the situation?
спілкуєтесь,
And what is your
і
opinion?
ті
You
можливості, які
communicate
ви
with
для
the
них
ladies
створюєте,
and those
який
opportunities you
відсоток з
create for
них
them. How many
готовий
of them,
повернутись
what
в Україну? Так, приблизно.
percentage of them is ready
Я
to
розумію,
come
що
back
різні
to Ukraine?
обставини, хтось,
Approximately.
можливо,
I understand they have different
немає
circumstances.
будинків, які
Maybe
розбиті,
someone's
розгромлені,
houses
так,
are
різні
ruined.
ситуації,
Maybe
да, я
someone
не
don't have
припускаю,
where
що
to
всі
come back.
повернуться
I don't
точно,
assume
так,
that
але
all of
все ж
them
таки, да,
100% will come back.
підтримка
But
колосальна,
nevertheless,
дійсно, не
there
тільки
is
від
great
вашої
support, not
організації
only
по
from your
всьому світі, да,
organization,
але якщо
but
дивитися
there
правді
is
в
great
очі,
support all
працюючи
over
з
the world.
жінками, ви що
But
відзначаєте, який
you
настрій
work
у
with the
них?
ladies. What are their
І
moods? What
скільки
are their
відсотків з них готові
sentiments? How
повернутися? І,
many of
можливо,
them are
знаєте
ready to come
умови,
back?
при яких
Maybe you
вони
know
готові
the
повернутися.
conditions they are ready to come back. What conditions should be in Ukraine for them to be ready to come back home? We didn't run such a survey, as our goal of our organization and project is to support to in employment, to help with job seeking, and probably it's something on the contrary to what we are doing. But I can say from my personal opinion, what sentiments I can notice. If we speak honestly, then first of all, they are aimed at surviving, and their main goal is to survive, to continue living. If there is no possibility to live a peaceful life without thinking that today you have to put on something to give food to your child, to pay for your housing, and we understand what is the rental payment, what are the prices for housing in Warsaw. It's really the greatest portion of the salary. You have to, most of the salary, majority of your salary, pay for the housing, and you have to provide for your children at least on some basic levels for them to survive. As for sentiments, come back or not, that's really the range is really huge. Some people move out to another countries if they can't find job in Poland. It really depends on languages they speak. Those who can afford somehow peacefully get mainstreamed, finding some jobs, or who have some savings, or someone has a husband who can be supportive to the families, then those ladies having support can think about finding job here, or they think if I can't find job this month or during some period of time, I'll come back home. And personally, I am in such a situation. Every time I come to this ecologist session, every time I raise this issue every time I visit my psychologist. I had, for example, sustainable, stable work, housing in Ukraine. I had my salary, income. Now I'm renting a teeny tiny apartment. And the most important for me, for example, the project is over. I should quickly find another job and I should change my profession so to provide for my child and myself. And I think that such questions are raised by everyone, and it's a really difficult issue. And to us, it's a good opinion, a good idea to maybe research on this tendency and maybe ask people about this. So I believe it will be my personal perspective, but I should say it's a really tough question. And it's a really tough question, and everyone thinks about it. If a person has taken the decision, I should stay here, then it's much easier for this person to find job, to overcome all of the challenges. If a person is vegan, then it's difficult for the person to survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that really thoughtful response, Alina. My takeaway is that it's a very personal, there's a lot of considerations that women are taking in particular are taking into account when they're making that decision about whether to commit to where they're living currently and what their opportunity is at home as well. So thank you for that really, really thoughtful perspective and for doing the work that you're doing in Poland and for bringing your perspective with all of the conversations that you're having with the women that you're working with. So thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to Muhaio and thank you to Anastasiia as well for being part of this really important conversation and for bringing the perspective of the individual to these conferences. It is so incredibly important that we hear from individuals as well as our incredible researchers and experts. So thank you. We really love this balance in these conferences of having both voices. Speaking of that, we are now going to shift to our two final speakers. I am really excited to invite Nadiia Lysetska, the founder of the Ukrainian platform Women in Business, and an advocate for supporting women's mental health in Ukraine. So this is a great opportunity to come back to this important topic that Alina and others have mentioned earlier. So Nadiia, we are ready to hear from you, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Hello, everyone. Susanna, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with each other, to speak about women in business in Ukraine and abroad, for all women who leave Ukraine and now building new life, new businesses in different countries, in different parts of the world. Thank you so much for your support. It's really important for us, like Ukrainian women. I remember how in the darkest of times, in the first weeks and months of the war in 2022, when the world community gave our country a few weeks to months to exist, and no one knew for sure what would happen and how we should to act. I saw a woman who around me who became real leaders, who like entrepreneurs didn't give up even when the market was down. Market was broken like our country. And women who took responsibility for entire business, who volunteered 24/7. And if we talk about impact of the war to women in Ukraine, we started to unite with each other. We looked for women who think like we and create new community and opportunities for support each other. We didn't not just survive, we create new opportunities for start new project, new businesses, and new life in Ukraine and abroad. and we will talk about our
I think we may have lost our connection with Nadiia. We will, if she comes back, we will give her the opportunity to complete her thought. But in the meantime, if you wouldn't mind, Oksana, making a quick transition. So I'm happy to introduce you this morning. Oksana is our final keynote speaker. We may have Nadiia coming back, but in the meantime, Oksana Chaban is a senior expert in public administration reform with the reform support team, Mineconomy. And Oksana, if you would please close us out, we would really appreciate hearing from you today. Thank you.
Susan, thank you so much. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Please share my presentation if you can.
Just a moment, Oksana, and I will check with our tech support. If you'd like to start, though, that would be great.
Susan, I'm so sorry because we have a problem with internet in our office. That's why now I connect from my telephone. Do you hear me? Is it okay?
Yes, this is great. So thank you. So we would love for you to finish your presentation. Yeah. And while that's happening, we'll find Oksana's presentation as well. So this is actually working out great. Thank you.
Okay. A few words about flexible of women in business and situation like now it's normal for us. We live every day in this situation. We don't know about nothing about our future. We can't plan anything, but we're still alive, and we believe in our country. We believe in women in business, and our business association start so many projects for support women in business, for startups, for women which who can be like mentor, some mentor programs. And we organize different forums, seminar, webinar, so many events for support women in business, for start new businesses and continue sustainability to businesses and women entrepreneurs. And thank you so much. It's all my words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadiia. Oksana, I have your presentation ready and we'll launch it for you now. So thank you so much for coming back to us, Nadiia. And yes, and I think what you just demonstrated is something that's come up multiple times this morning, which is the flexibility and the resilience and the ability to shift and make changes when needed for women entrepreneurs. So thank you so much for being able to come back and finish your comments. And I'm really, really happy to bring Oksana back, and we will start her presentation here as well. All right. Thank you, Oksana.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Like a dialogue. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. It's an honor to be here among professional and supportive women. Today, I'm here to talk about the impact of the war on women in Ukraine and the importance of building opportunities for women in business and the public sector. As a professional, I work on public administration reform, devoting myself to shaping the future of our country. As a service member wife who defends our country, resilience has become an essential role in my life. I'm also a mother to my daughters, whom I now care for alone without support with my husband, which my husband is not able to provide now. And there are thousands of women like me. Each of us fulfills an important mission at work, at home, for our families and our country. Next slide, please. The situation in Ukraine and the impact of war on women in the public sector. The war has significantly shifted the gender balance within the public sector. Many men defend our country, and women have stepped into leadership at different levels, especially in community management and crisis response. Female public servants have become essential leaders, ensuring stability, management, humanitarian projects, and supporting communities in crisis. The added responsibilities and challenges of balancing family duties with work have created serious difficulties for women on the front lines of public administration. A few examples of these challenges are increased responsibilities for children without the support of family members who are serving or displaced. Mental and physical fatigue from management extended work hours, along with household and child care responsibility. Limited access to flexible work in the public sector makes it harder to manage unexpected family needs. High stress levels due to both professional demands in a crisis environment and personal concerns for family safety. Reduced time for personal well-being, as many women prioritize family and work over their health. Next slide. The key gender barriers and challenges. Low representation in leadership. Women are still underrepresented in senior management, especially in key decision-making roles, which limits their influence on strategic directions. Gender stereotypes and social expectations. Society often places family responsibilities on women, limiting their career ambitions and professional development. Lack of flexible support. Many women lack access to mentorship and skill building opportunities, limiting their chances to career growth and contributing to gender inequality. And the next slide. Essential actions to improve conditions and support women leaders in the public sector are institutional support and funding, development of targeted programs to provide women leaders with financial support and technical assistance for enhancing management skills, mentorship and educational programs. Mentorship initiatives from international partners can foster leadership skills, crisis management, and strategic planning. Gender-sensitive legislation and policies. The international partners can share experience in developing laws and promote gender equality, prevent discrimination, and ensure equal conditions for women. Experience exchange and international training. Internships and exchange programs with international organizations can equip Ukrainian women with practical skills for implementation in the public sector. Next, please. As Ukraine faces extraordinary challenges, women in the public sector are stepping forward with remarkable resolve, ensuring the stability and resilience of our communities. These women leaders, civil servants, and community advocates are navigating complex roles with courage, shouldering both professional and personal responsibility during the crisis. To protect our nation, we must protect our institutions. And in this mission, our international partners, especially the United States, hold a key role. Support for leadership development, access to resources, and mentoring can make a real difference, helping women strengthen communities and move Ukraine toward a more inclusive and sustainable future. Together, we can bridge the barriers and that still hold back women in leadership, helping to build Ukraine where every woman can contribute fully to the nation's growth and recovery. Thank you for standing with us on this mission.
Thank you so much, Oksana. And I apologize for having my head in the middle of your presentation. Someday we will all figure out how to use Zoom perfectly, but that is not today for me. So
thank you so much. Everything was perfect. It's okay. Thank you.
So thank you for wrapping us up with all of these really incredibly practical recommendations. This is what we were hoping to come back to. This is the point of this conference series. We want to come back to practical recommendations, things that will make a difference for women entrepreneurs in Ukraine and the rebuilding of Ukraine and the sustaining of Ukraine, the work that everyone who has joined us this morning is doing. With that, I would like to thank all of our presenters this morning, everyone who spoke this morning, everyone who was involved in putting together this conference. Your voices are so incredibly important, and we want to put as much spotlight on them as possible. We know, as we have said over and over again today, that Ukrainian women-led businesses are a crucial part of Ukraine's resilience. And you all have demonstrated this resilience, and we've heard about it this morning. And we know that you're going to play an important role in rebuilding Ukraine's economy. And as you continue supporting Ukraine's economy, we want to continue supporting you and hearing from you. We encourage everyone who's joined us this morning to join our next virtual conference on November 19th, which also is International Women's Entrepreneurship Day, which Muhaio mentioned earlier today. We will be having some wonderful welcoming remarks from Ambassador Gupta, who is with the U.S. State Department and who is in charge of global women's issues, the ambassador at large for global women's issues. So we're really excited to have her joining us next conference. And this next conference will focus on some of the things that came up this morning that Anastasiia actually referenced during her conversation, which are the technical and legal barriers and the structural barriers that exist in Ukraine that affect the ability for women to start and grow their businesses. So we will be exploring those barriers and looking at what are the practical recommendations that come out of that. So if you'd like to see the confirmed speakers for that, you can always find this on the WMarketplace's conference website. I'll drop that in the chat shortly, or maybe Kate could drop that in the chat. That would be great. And then finally, as we're closing, I'd like to say a special thank you to our amazing partner, Agnes Pawlikowska. You've heard Agnes referenced a few times as our speakers have come on. She is the Ukraine desk officer with the U.S. Department of Commerce, and it is her fierce dedication to U.S.-Ukraine relations that has played a crucial role in bringing these conferences to life. So thank you so much, Agnes, for being an amazing partner and advocate for women entrepreneurs in Ukraine. I'd also like to say a special thank you to the American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine and to the U.S.-Ukraine Business Council. They have both been incredibly supportive in making introductions, to promoting this conference, to providing speakers, as we heard from Dr. Paliashvili this morning. So just thank you to these amazing partners who have been part of organizing and promoting and speaking at these conferences. And with that, we are concluding today's presentation. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you at our next conferences. Thank you again. and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.